What's up, guys? So, today I decided that there is a group of people out there who deserve to be discussed in the channel since I am determined to talk about absolutely anything in life that I think about or imagine or wonder about. And then I said, how come I have never talked about the veterans of life, the humans who have a lot of experience walking on this earth, and that eventually I will be a member of that society, to name it one way or another. And this is going to be a combination of me having questions, comments, concerns, and even fucking fears. So let's just dive right into it. So, one of the things that I notice about old people is that it's kind of difficult to tell how your interaction with them is going to go because there, in my experience, daily, there is the old person who is going to be extremely sweet, extremely kind, extremely nice, extremely generous, just the absolute positive end of the spectrum. That's what they occupy. But then the opposite can be true. You can encounter this old person who is always alone, always moody, always angry, always like impatient, has a snappy tone, snappy attitude. And then when I think about it, I'm like, well, maybe the old person who is on the positive extreme of the spectrum feels that way because maybe they recently retired, they are not as old as they look, they may have just undergone some kind of medical procedure that helps them, maybe they are getting themselves drugged and that helps them just feel and look better and sound better. And sometimes I think that they may be living with family, like they're not alone to where everything needs to get done by then. It's like they can share the burden of tasks that, because of their aging, have become difficult for them. Or maybe they just have a shit ton of money because, they're old. So hopefully they made the right choices when they were younger. And that put them in a good financial position to where they don't have to worry about a damn thing and they can afford to live this life of just luxury and comfort and whatever. So when I think about let's call them the bitter old people, I think, well, usually they tend to be physically challenged one way or another. They may walk slow. They, I find that they will naturally have trouble hearing you since, as you age, your senses just do not function the way that they used to, and you have trouble adapting to that because you remember a time when you could be independent, you could open jars, you could run, you could climb, you could bend, you could do all sorts of things. And now, on top of that, if the people who surround you are not patient with you and your physical deterioration, I can see how you're going to be constantly in a defensive mode and impatient. Like, you just don't want to feel like you're a burden on others. So maybe you're trying to just catch a break and you will act a certain way. You'll act like you are responding to how people have treated you for a while. So maybe that's why the rest of us, when we encounter you, we will perceive you as someone who's really bitter and really difficult to deal with. But if we sat down and thought about the stuff that you have gone through and what you're going through, maybe we would understand that, when you don't feel good, shit happens. Your behavior is different. I know I act differently whenever I have something wrong with me physically, and I'm not old at all. And on the note of being old, just at what age are you considered old? Because I hear people saying when they hear so and so is 40 years old, oh, that's not old. Like late 40s, oh, that's not old. Early 50s, oh, that's not old. Relative to the earth, comparative to the earth, of course you're not old, But in human years, I guess we start considering you old when you look all beat up and wrinkled and tired and fat. And well, not old people, all old people are fat, but generally your body's changes that are associated with age is like your skin just sagging or wrinkling, and you gain weight, especially in undesired areas, and maybe hair. You start losing it in some spots and then gaining it on some other spots. So, just at what age do you guys consider, or is there a universal agreed upon age number that once you hit, it's like you're old as fuck? I think some people age definitely at a more accelerated rate than others. That has to do with everything from genetics to lifestyle choices to like the way you live your life. Like if you expose yourself to the sun and shit, I hear that that wrinkles you. So just what is it like to just be old? It's like I know I'll get there and I should just sit tight and be patient, but there are certain attitudes and behaviors that I seem to only see in old people that I have yet to grasp. So maybe that's why I'm just curious now. And when I think about my grandparents, to me, they just looked like adults that were just, they weren't any different. They were still strong, energetic. They still got things done. They would still go out. They could walk. They could climb. They did everything a little slower than normal. And of course, their skin felt different. But they didn't make it seem like age was a burden for them, which makes me wonder what was their life like before they got old, you know? So, anyways, let me see what you guys are saying in the comments. Hello, Zam, great topic. Sometimes I think that maybe they are scared of life. You know what? I can see that because, especially with the old folks that I encounter, where I work at, it's like, especially around technology, it's like so intimidating for them. And I understand that I had the privilege and the advantage of, while I was in school, I was being shown the new applications that are evolving, developing, updated, being put out. So to me, technology advancing is not intimidating. The only thing that I pretty much gave up on was video games. Like all the mechanics and how the graphics have improved and everything. I'm like, okay, long live the games that I grew up playing, but the games from the present, I'm not excited about. So when it comes to old people and them trying to grasp that, when I learn how to use a new device, it can be an intimidating experience, but because I have a strong background with computers, it's not very difficult for me to end up transitioning into it entirely. But for someone who has been learning on the go and you that wasn't really a base in your education, I can see how that can be intimidating, especially when the world as you know it keeps changing and adapting to this new method of doing things. Like it is rare that we use cash anymore, and that's something that I want to talk about that I wrote down today. And then it's like the way they pay is different, the way that they send gifts is different, the way they shop is different. Even the medications and medical care that they receive is different. So I can imagine that psychologically that's doing a lot to you, especially when you see younger people who are on top of things and then you're like slowly transitioning into it. That's gotta be frustrating. At some point, you were young, you were in your prime, you were on top of everything, you were the person everyone went up to for like support and help me carry this and that, and now suddenly you are the person who's needy. That's gonna be hurtful for your pride, like to some extent. And especially if you were someone who was deemed as super attractive when you were young and now it's like not even flies land on your body, that's gotta be frustrating. But that's, it depends on how much value you put into vanity. But personally, I just, sometimes I worry about the time that I waste and how I'm not going to get it back. So I'm just going to, be like, ugh, I regret so much that my adolescence was wasted. But but now I find myself trying to be desperate, making up for my lost time. But but yeah, how do old people feel? Like, what are their regrets? And um, is it ever too late to do something? I hear that age is just a number, but if you think about it critically, you know, there are consequences associated with aging, which is you're just a mortal body, so you're going to undergo some changes and it's going to affect your life. So and then especially when it comes to finances, it's like, did you save up enough to where you can cover the expenses, medical expenses that are bound to happen since your body's starting to like fail on you and shit? So, you know, that's gonna be stressful as well. Like, you don't want to spend all of your hard-earned money that you worked decades for, and then this is how you're going to like live your life. And then if you're old and still gotta work, but you very much would like to retire, like let's say you're 65 and you're still working, that's definitely not doing your psyche any favors. So yeah, yeah, no, no. God, I need a lot of help with this topic because I just don't know where to go with it. To me, people are old when they can get Social Security. Old is relative. Some people think I am old, but there are some I consider old. Security checks. True. Personally, I think that it is an attitude. You know what? That reminds me of this one movie about, I think it was a coach or something. It's a trailer that I saw. And in the trailer, it says, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. To me, that makes so much sense because one of the things that I have heard the most is that once you're old and you retire, you tend to die because you go ahead, sit around and do nothing. So it's like you're not working, you're not watching what you're eating, you're not moving as much, you're constantly resting, or maybe you're traveling, but when you're traveling, you're committing dietary sins, for example. So, yeah, that's something to consider. I love old people so much, the history they did. I love to listen to old people stories. You know what? I have become so increasingly grateful for that. And personally, everybody who is old at my job, at some point, I have had a conversation about it. Sometimes they go, do you remember this and that? Did your grandparents ever talk to you about this and that? I know you're too young for it, but did you ever hear about it? And I'm like, no. It's just so cool. As a child, my grandparents would always try to tell me stuff, but my attention span was terrible and my retention was terrible. So now that all of my grandfathers are dead, it's like, Ming, I wish I could hear their opinions on political stuff, especially from nowadays. But when it comes to my grandmothers, it's like I'm sure that there's a lot that I could have learned from them, like especially home stuff, like how to fix my own clothes, and let's see, what else? How to not be intimidated by parenthood. Because let me tell you, the idea of me becoming a mother is so scary. It's like I can hardly handle being alone, like taking care of myself. So how am I supposed to take care of a tiny human? I feel like grandparents would help you at becoming more confident at it, especially if they talk to you about the way that your parents were brought up, and then your parents can pass along that knowledge. But now everyone is so busy and we all gotta be stuck at work to make ends meet. Our communication is broken. So my grandfather, until the very end, he was working until he got really sick to where he could not work anymore. So now that begs the question, was he working because he liked to and could, and that's what he opted for doing? Or was it because he was not financially in in a good spot, which would be weird because they built their own property. They had property, so you don't need to worry about that. And then they didn't have to spend money on their kids because everyone had their careers, and they grew their own food, so it's not like they have to pay for that kind of stuff. All they had to pay for was electricity and property, like whatever taxes it is that the county charges you for being a resident or some bullshit, stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Like when you don't think about this stuff until you actually focus your mind on it. So now it's like I have so many things to say, but not a structure to like follow. Old people have been through life. They never have no fear. They will never have fear in anything. You know what? That is so true. I was telling someone the other day how when I go to the beach and I see, say, crabs or like turtles, it is difficult for me to tell which animals are dangerous and which ones aren't. Whereas when I was a little girl and I would go to the beach with my grandparents, they knew what the behavior of those animals would be. They would be like, Sam, don't get too close to the shore because something can jump. Or, like, I'll never forget the times that my grandmother would reel in a fucking eel, and I would be so terrified of it because it's a fucking sea snake and it's ugly and big and everything. And then my grandfather would just, like, kill it. And I'm like, that thing is so terrifying. It's like I would just be frozen in one spot and just shaking and everything. And my grandfather would just take care of it like it was just a walk in the park. And my grandma would be so chill about it. Like, hey, I reeled in an eel. And I'm like, lady, that thing is a sea snake. Run away. But no, she was calm, chill, collected. Whereas I was like crapping my pants and like a mile away, just watching them getting stuff done. So that is one thing that I admire about them. They spent time with nature, they were outside, they had their gardens and their own animals at some point. They knew when chickens would have eggs and junk, and I'm like, I don't know anything about that. They knew just by feeling the land. They didn't need any strips to like figure out the health of soil or anything. Like they just knew what was fertile and what wasn't, what was going to work, what kind of product they would yield. They knew everything. And these people did not go to school. So it's like, what happened to that? What happened to that knowledge? That gets passed down by them. But because we live in a society where we are all getting ever so dispersed, it's like that shit is getting lost. Those abilities are getting lost. Recipes. There are so many recipes I wish I would have gotten from my grandmother that I'm like, I may probably never get. So it's crazy. It's amazing what old people can contribute. But at the same time, you're like, I don't want to get old because you're scared of the physical consequences and then the mental effect of your body just, breaking down. But old age is not just your body sucks and whatnot. Like for some people, that's the happiest they've ever been. So I'm like, wow, to know that my youth is something that is limited and I'll never get it back, and yet people actually don't miss those times. It's like, what? It's kind of difficult to wrap my head around that. But at the same time, the influences that we have out there are really obsessed with youth as an appearance, and society is more afraid of embracing aging in general. Like aging is just this, it's become, what do you call that, like a taboo. You can't get old and this and that, and I'm like, why? That's just a natural part of life, a natural cycle. So now I feel like we have been instilled this fear of aging, and that's why people end up all depressed and miserable. And I'm like, no, you do not need to permit that in your mind and soul. But anyways, again, this is coming from a young person. I know that I am the least adequate person to be voicing my opinion on this matter, but I like to speculate. I like to have fun, and then you guys can share stories too. Um, let's see. Old people being mad at the things they can't do anymore, partying, running, eating crazy foods, cannot stand up all night anymore. Hi Zamri, happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Most old people being in World War II or the 60s war, when NBA players, NFL, WWE, tennis, so much more cannot play sports forever. They can't, but they still play sports at home for fun. Yeah, you don't have to be playing or doing sports on a competitive level. You can just do it for like nostalgia's sake. And even if you go a century without playing games, if it's a skill, skills are not forgotten. The only thing that can impede you from performing such things is if you have a physical restriction. But other than that, it's like you ever play against an old person and you think, ha ha ha, I'm young, I have better stamina, I have more energy, my joints are all together, and then they beat you so effortlessly and you wonder fucking why. Well, their experience, they see things in a way that you don't see it, and they have had time to observe others, they have been involved in competitions, etc., etc., whereas you are just getting started, but you are playing with a preconceived notion of because I am young, I am automatically advantageous over this person. And that is one of the biggest mistakes because you become too overconfident. And then that's where they get you. But, anyways, I think that's interesting. Um, I'm sorry about your grandfather's memory. I will be playing, praying. Holger Legends, how dare you both come to this live before me? Turtles are the oldest animals. They can live 300 years and more. Oh, yeah, I love turtles. Amazing the way they don't rush in life and everything they do, turtles being taking their time. You know what? Now that you put it like that, it's like, is that something that we should be learning from turtles? Are turtles, is the message that turtles are sending to us, y'all need to slow down and you'll see that life is just better. Because everything, every time I think about the times that I have personally been the happiest, I am the happiest when I do not sweat the small stuff. I take my time doing things. I don't stress out over anything. I don't obsess over anything. And I try to have a plan to where I am not rushing to do 700 things in one day when realistically I'm not meant to be able to get absolutely everything done in my checklist. I used to be one of those people who would absolutely beat herself up if she did not get around to a task over, say, being distracted or resting, like taking another nap or something. And I always want to beat myself up for it. But now it's like, you know what? What's the hurry? Why am I in a hurry? When I am driving and I see all these people speeding and doing their crazy maneuvers, they are rushing, and then I remain at the speed limit and I catch up to them at a red light. It's like, do you see what's wrong with you? It's like I was the turtle in traffic, but I still caught up to you, speed demon. So maybe turtles, that's their wisdom. It's like just take it easy, and it's difficult for you to think in that manner when life seems to be filled with people who are impatient and everything feels like it has a deadline. Say when you order something, it's like you're guaranteed that it'll get shipped to your home within 3 days. Do you ever wonder about the logistics of what things go through to make it home by the deadline? You know, like by the third day or so that the shipping is promised on like priority mail. So what's the hurry? Seriously, we're this society that has become so like entitled to a now kind of service, you know? I'm guilty of it for some things, but when something is delayed, I don't even sweat it. I just want to make sure that stuff gets to me, period. But it's just crazy to me that that's the way things are now. Like, I don't think that, well, maybe because the technology and workforce did not exist back then for us to have all this stuff available to us, maybe that's why things are the way they are. And the old people just did not see that in their past, but presently it's weird how impatient we've become. You know, we need to see turtles. We need to watch turtles. Everybody, go watch a turtle video. um, Michael, hey Michael, says, hi, talking about me today. I guess Michael considers himself old. Oh, by the way, Mike, while you are joining us right now, earlier I asked if there is a specific established age in which you are considered old. So, is there a specific number that you hit that declares you old, or is it just based on individuals and say their physical appearance or mental capacity, yada yada? Because some people consider 40 to be old, some people don't. Some consider 50 to be old, and some people feel like you're pushing your youth, but you're still young. And then I was like, well, compared to the earth, of course, you're considerably young, but I'm just interested in seeing where everybody is at when it comes to that one. I personally feel like if I divide it into segments, categories, then I can determine when you're old, but it's not very consistent. Like, for instance, I think that for you to be competing, say, at beauty pageants, I think that if you are above 40, that might be pushing it. But that's not something that I care for, and I don't even watch that. But so I cannot really be definitive on that. But when it comes to sports, I would recommend that if you're already in your 30s, I'm not saying stop playing, but your body is going to start breaking down on some areas. So you should not augment the intensity for competitive purposes. You can maintain your shape, but to be aspiring to surpass your performance, I think that you may be doing damage to your body, but not everybody is the same physically. Like, I may be deteriorating as a female much faster than the average female. So I have to take that into account. My aging is not going to be the same as somebody else's. Whereas some people are going to be all broken by the time they hit their late 20s. It may be earlier for them. Whereas I may be able to like do all of the amazing things that I can do presently all the way to age like maybe 36, 40, maybe. But, so I think that if you divide it like that, then you'll be better. So when it comes to dating, I want to say if you're like 40, I would encourage you to not mess with someone who's like in their early 20s, because I think that's pushing it. You're kind of robbing someone else's youth and innocence when you had your youth and innocence and you enjoyed it, and now you're kind of taking it away from someone else. But clearly, a couple is made up of two people, so this younger person has to agree to be involved with your old ass. But that's her value, that's her problem. But I would say do not actively pursue young people, because I think that's fucking weird. But but then again, those are my values. You guys know where I stand on those things. But if you know that someone is naive and innocent, do not take advantage of them. That's what I'm trying to say. Because I'm sure that there's people out there who they're like, oh, look at this, young me. Oh, I'm so gonna mess with it. Like, please, just lead young people in a better direction. But then again, people are free to do whatever the hell they want. It's just that if I had a child, I wouldn't like for them to be taken advantage of like that. I would hope that I have raised them right to be able to know what is right and what is wrong, in situations like that. But at the same time, I just think that I'm seeing too many weird things, and I just do not want to see young people regretting their decisions. See what I mean? So if you enjoyed your youth, how about if you look for people who are closer to your age, closer to your values, shape, political views, even? But it's just that messing with young people just for the fun of it when you already had like your experiences and the love of your life and you experienced it decades ago, that's kind of weird to me. Just be a coach for that younger person, not treat them like objects. See what I mean? But again, It's not like that's going to rid the world of evil or anything. It's just my personal opinion. It's just that I find it weird that there's people in their 40s trying to pick up girls who are like in their late teens, like say 19 and then early 20s and stuff. That's just fucking weird. There's no way a young person is going to take you seriously like that. And there's no way that you can be serious about a young person. Just no. There has to be an extreme circumstance. But you guys tell me if I am wrong. I love to learn. That's just how I feel things, how I perceive things. I'm not trying to say that I'm all righteous or anything, but it's just that it's weird. It's weird. Let's face it. It is weird. Um, let's see. Where am I at? You know you are getting old when you sit on the toilet and your balls sag down into a toilet. That is something that I will never know about. Old people always telling young people, baby, you should marry, finding a wonderful husband or wife. Yeah, because these people, they seemed to be getting married significantly younger. So if you, for some reason, are in your 20s or so and you haven't tied the knot already, they look at you like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, what is wrong with me is that I have concerns that you did not have when you were young. Like, you didn't have to worry about your job paying you enough and, you know, all that political shit that affects us in the present. I don't want to turn this stream into one of those. But yeah, it's interesting that way that generations change. The issues that your grandparents had may not be issues that you currently face, but privileges that they had are things that you don't have. So it's like it feels like a curse in a sense. Like if you were born just a few years earlier or later, it is an advantage in some things and it is a complete disadvantage in other things. So I think that's the thing that I am fascinated by and I just want to explore. Did I say disadvantage? I'm so trippy. Disadvantage. It wasn't a difficult day. I'm just drained. Me and my brothers met this old man, 94 years old, still remembering he was in World War II, and two of bad memories and two and good memories. Man, Zemi dropping the F bomb today. Fuck yes! That's what this channel is about. I'll try to curse a little less, but no promises. Zemri, do you think about the future in 30 years or later? I do that all the time without worrying. When it comes to me looking 30 years ahead, I have done that, yes, but very, very, very seldom. When I think about it, I like to think about what is my environment going to look like. Like sometimes I drive down a road and I ask whoever I'm driving with, do you ever wonder what this spot looked like 100 years ago? Do you ever wonder what it looked like 150 years ago? They were definitely they were surrounded by more trees for sure, but the landscape could have been completely different. Maybe this was a swamp and now there's absolutely no water in sight. Just little things like that. How much has this place changed? And how has people's mentalities changed as well? Because as someone who lives in the South, it's like, it's not just the South, but all over. But let's say the United States in general, this place has seen a lot of fucking bloodshed. So what happened in this very spot? You know, today, modern day, this spot is just, a residential area and I'm here. My room is chaotic, but this is a pretty peaceful area, I feel. But at some point in this place, maybe there was wilderness where there were like animals were just having on each other and eating each other and messing with each other, yada yada. Or then maybe the settlement that was here before this got modernized. What used to happen around here? Who died around here? What kind of crimes were committed around here? Or shoot, it doesn't even have to be ages ago. It could be more recently. What is the history of the soil that you are walking all over. There is a lot of stories to be told by your environment. So I just wish that I could somehow tune in to like the trees or something. Like, hey yo, tree, how long have you been sitting here? What have you seen? What have you heard? And I'm pretty sure that they would have so many stories to tell. But supposedly the environment never forgets about like impactful moments. So it's like, can birds tell a story, you know? Like, I like to imagine a world where we can communicate and understand everything like the natives supposedly could do. I say supposedly because, you know, I never saw that or witnessed that for myself. So I cannot say, oh yeah, we totally could speak to animals and shit. But I like to think that as members of the ecosystem, we interact with them one way or another. So what's to keep us from developing a way to communicate with them, even though we think of them as beasts? That's something that our grandparents definitely knew. Like my great grandfather could tell that there was bad weather coming just from the way that birds would fly and jump, you know? So that's something that I cannot do. But yeah, it's just, I feel like it's information that's just not getting passed down anymore. People need to go outside. Yes, people need to follow turtles. Who's Amory? You're not a turtle, but an adorable angel. Nice comment. Amazing that old people see all the decades and now different music, clothes, movies, music, and games, car companies. Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Like, especially with the way cars look and operate. The cars did not even have a roof at some point. Some did not even have wiper blades. They didn't even have mirrors. They didn't even have blinkers. They didn't have air conditioner. They didn't have heaters. So, yeah, someone had to think about all those things and invent them. And that's how we have the modern car. So, you know, roads. We think, oh yeah, when cars were invented, all of a sudden the highway just came about. No, it's like, I guess there was no rule to driving. It was like, okay, you have dirt and grass that is not like told to rip your car apart or something. You know, how much did cars even cost? Like $500, $1,000, and what year? What kind of year? Let's say 1930s or something. I don't know. I have never read up on that. But like the Ford Model T, I think it's what it was called. Like that old ass car. What was that like? Imagine driving that. It's considered like a super classic car, so it'll be mad expensive, but like for me, I don't care for a car like that because I'm used to, you know, my modern cars now. And of course, I did not consider turning on my light before doing this. But anyways, I'll be wrapping this up in a few anyway. But yeah, I cannot wait for the summer. It stays light way longer. Sorry, couldn't avoid it. Most people look old in their 40s or 30s, the way people have a hard life. I retired at 54. I am 60 in my thumbnail now, but I don't feel old. Good genes. Yeah, that too. There are some people who, oh my God, it's like, how are you 65 and your skin is like so on point? You know? And your spirit, your voice, physically, you still move around and stuff. It's, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. There's some people who really take care of themselves. And of course, genes play a part on it as well. But yeah, it's so fascinating. Some people will have a good old life and some people will be all fucked up. Like, is that something that we can all avoid? Can we all make all kinds of perfect, righteous decisions and then we will age in a perfect way and not suffer the consequences? Or, you know, or is it just luck? I don't want to think that it's just luck. Of course, your decisions do play a part, but you didn't choose your genes and it worked out for you. But for some people, it won't work out for them. So that's, I find that so fascinating. Also, just kidding. When I get old, I'll be a movie teacher teaching young people how movies are in decades. I don't personally agree, but it is so person independent, so person dependent. Hi, do you have a flexible thumb, hitchhiker's thumb? Yup. Yup. And it is one of the grossest things ever, according to children. Like when I was in school, everyone would be like, "What is up with your finger? Oh my god, that is so terrible and creepy." I think I made a video about it. I think it was called "People Being Weird Along with You," and then I told the story of a guy who could like bend his fingers, like these four fingers, all the way back because he did something to his hand. And then I was like, "Oh, you're weird. I'm weird too." And then I showed him my thumb, and yeah, yeah. Xander, most men love young women for their body, never romance, and most older women love young men to show young women they still got it. When people are getting older, they need to be moved on. Oh my god, yes. On the note of like women who go after young guys, I'm like, fucking why? And then when I think about it, yeah, it is to make the younger females feel like insecure and whatnot, like you're on top of the game. And I'm like, girl, bye. Just learn to let go of times. Like you have your time to enjoy some stuff. It's like when you have kids and you expect to live your life in the same manner, like you want to continue to party and be reigning your schedule, and I'm like, no, you have a tiny human who's dependent on you. Of course you have to divide your time and make sacrifices and junk. So it's like with old people competing against younger women, it's like, what can I say? You can find the man who's suitable for you and your age, but it's just weird that we have this mentality of we gotta prove ourselves that we're not pieces of crap and we still got it and we're better than other people and we can compete against youngsters and like remaining relevant. Like no, there are so many ways that you can do that that do not involve bringing other people down or trying to relive a time in your life that you're just no longer a part of. That's just weird to me. But who knows? Maybe I'll be an old lady who's gonna be like going after young boys. But no, if I can help it, I'm not going to. Like maybe if I have some weird romantic dementia or something, then sure. But no, I just cannot imagine myself being that way. I'm not that way when I'm young, so to suddenly adopt that when I'm old is kind of weird. But maybe I don't know what it's like to live in desperation, so maybe that'll make me do things that I'll regret. But I don't know. I don't know. Imagining that is just crazy. And then yeah, like older guys who are after young girls for their body, it's like, dude, you already had your time with young bodies. Like, move on, you know? No, like, why do you find an old body disgusting? Is that what it is? Like, why? But, anyways, I guess I'll know when I hit a certain age. Yes, Zamri, I think of that all the time. The people used to live in my neighborhood, and the trees were very old, 100 or 300 years. Cars didn't have seat belts back then. Oh my God, yes. So basically, anytime you would just run into something, you would just be guaranteed to fly out of the car. That's crazy. Crazy. I think life has ups and downs. It's your attitude that matters. Another person who says attitude. Awesome. So it is true then that it is all a matter of attitude. I have a cousin who's like 60 something, and she definitely has not aged well emotionally and mentally. She keeps talking about how old she has gotten. On Facebook, she keeps uploading pictures of her from like decades ago. And I'm like, lady, it's all right. You know, there's stuff that I miss about being a teenager, such as my hair being shiny all the time without effort, and also the fact that, you know, my hair was thicker, but it's like, it's okay. I have gray hairs, like a few stray ones, and I'm not already running to like the pharmacy to look for black, what is it, hair dye and trying to color it, you know? Like I want to try silver hair, you know? But if I find that it's lowering my self-esteem, then sure, I'll alter it. But it's like I'm not obsessing over that. I like to pluck them to be like, "Oh, look at this curly gray hair." But it's, you know, it's okay. Shit happens. Some people are going to age better than others. That's just the way it is. Like, shoot. Thing. Um, let's see. Where am I at? Uh, Zamri, the prices was different back then. The way this man brought the Pittsburgh Steelers for $10,000, now the team costs $3 billion. Yes, like we have to adjust stuff for inflation. That's crazy. I don't think one has to be constrained by age. Love is love. You know what? I can believe that. But in this society that is so obsessed with like body image and like reproduction and all that, it's kind of different. Uh Yes, you're right, Zamri. Turn on the lights. Actually, I should be thinking about wrapping this up because I gotta continue with my evening routine. But yeah, you guys, thanks so much for joining me. And next time, I'll be sure to have the light on ahead of time so that as it gets dark outside, I can continue to be visible. But yeah, I was thinking about wrapping this up already. So yeah, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in and joining me and giving me your opinions and thoughts and experiences from the audience members who are already part of the elderly group. Half, yeah, just kidding. But yeah, I really appreciate it because it helps me think about some stuff and consider some stuff and be more aware of just how life is going to be as time passes. And I feel like this is something that we should talk about, and that way the topic is not so tabooish and like what is it, intimidating for us young